Since day one, my co-chair keeps stealing jokes, and I think it should be my turn now to tell you a joke, a kind of a joke. It's because we will have a dialogue with the youth, and you remember the former Premier of Quebec, Mr. Robert Bourassa. He was pretty quick, there was a scrum, and the reporters were asking him questions, embarrassing questions. And Mr. Bourassa, he was not answering questions, he was only beating around the bush. And then one reporter said, Mr. Bourassa, it's question period. He said, you're right, it's not the answer period. So on this note, I would like to welcome back, first of all, I would like to recognize Her Excellency. Thank you, Nekomic, for being with us. And I would like also to recognize again our youth, Rosalie, Joni, and Kira. And they have accepted, to stay with us and to answer your questions. So there are 3 microphones on the floor. I think there is one here on the left, one in the middle, et un troisième ici à droite. Et I would like to invite people who would like to ask questions to the youth to introduce yourself and also to be brief in your questions because time is of essence. So soyez les plus brefs possibles lorsque vous posez vos questions afin de permettre à un plus grand nombre possible de participants de s'adresser à nos jeunes. Et encore, je profite de l'occasion pour vous rappeler que s'il y a des gens, des participants qui voudraient partager des témoignages personnels, nous avons les gens du centre ici qui vont être heureux au 3e étage de recueillir vos témoignages. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Luke. Quick announcement. I see people lining up to ask questions of our youth. We invite you to take advantage of this opportunity and the wisdom of our matriarchs rising. We just had a phone turned into us. It's an Apple phone with a beautiful Gitbu Eagle screensaver on it. There's a message on it. Luke is going to check your emails and respond. You can come up to the front table here. I have your cell phone.
Oh, my co-chair, she always picks on me, but I love her very much. Okay, so without any ado, sans plus tarder, je vais dire le micro numéro 1, 2 et 3. Donc, microphone numéro 1, s'il vous plaît. Please introduce yourself.
Me? Okay. Tanse Nisega Stephanie Bellegarde. My name is Stephanie Bellegarde, and I work for the Star Blanket Cree Nation of the Ground Search Project team that is in Treaty 4 Territory, Saskatchewan. Hello, I am one of the researchers. I would like to say, I have 2 questions. And don't worry, I won't be talking for too long or, I won't over-exaggerate, so don't worry about that, okay? So the first question, and don't worry, it's short, sweet. What do you want to see coming out of the residential school projects? And how can we, as on-the-ground project workers, engage our youth in our work?
Merci.
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you also for the work on the ground that you're doing in this field. I can only imagine how the work is, so thank you again. One thing I hope to see soon rather than later is some closure for our families, however that may come. So if it's through finding of the bodies, through finding the children, through however that work may be, I hope we start to see some closure within the work that you're all doing. And how do we engage youth in this work? What type of youth do you need? Give me a list and I got a handful of them I can probably start sending your way. I know of researchers as well that are interested in finding new fields. I may be able to connect with you in that way. I've always got labor power in my young Métis boys that I have back home. So if we can connect and what youth capacities you think would be best within your organization and the work that you're doing, I'd be happy to further those conversations. But if you think just a call out for youth to recognize and get involved, then I think that could be a potential way, is to just remind the youth of the important work that you and your peers are doing. Thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, Johnny.
I think that you should be educating people not only in like the bigger communities but also the smaller communities. I think they should be outreach in the smaller communities as well, because I know in my community there are people who don't really know what's going on. I honestly had no idea there was the gathering until I got invited, and that got me by surprise. So if you can connect with me as well. I currently work as a mental health outreach worker in my community, so it would be nice to connect on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think if anything I have to add to that is just asking how they want to be involved. I think as young people, oftentimes we get left out of that decision making. But it's just as simple as just asking, how would you like to be involved? And I think there's potential pathways, as my colleagues mentioned. There could be mentorships or internships in researching. There's many different avenues that could come out of that. But I think that would be my suggestion, is just asking them, and even just finding those ways of partnering with our elders and allowing them to sit, and those are valuable times as well that are there for learning too. So thank you.
Thank you. Merci à vous trois. Sans plus tarder, microphone number 2, microphone numéro 2. Présentez-vous, s'il vous plaît.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Jacobs. I am a Mohawk from the community of Ganawage. I'm sorry if I'm going to be emotional, but this is an emotional testimony. I do have a question. When I walked into the room, I walked in a little bit late. I heard that you had failed your first year in college. And that really touched me in a way that provoked me to come up here and say some words. I'm an intergenerational survivor as well. Both my parents were in residential and day school. When I was taken to BC when I was about 7, I struggled because my mother couldn't raise us. She had sustained a lot of abuse from day school, and I just knew that education was very, very important. But by the time I went to high school, I went to an alternative high school, so I wasn't able to learn the curriculum. I had to work at night. There was a massive amount of struggles, and I remember going to college and failing my first year. And I got through 3 years, barely, and I went to study criminology in Vancouver. And I remember when the instructor gave me back the paper and marked it all in red and said to me, "You don't deserve to be here. I don't know how you got through the front door." That still actually resonates with me today, even though I've gone on to other education. I'm a senior analyst with the Assembly of First Nations in the justice sector. I do hold a 4.0 in international relations at Concordia. But my mother went through her, thank you. That wasn't easy. And back in the day when I was coming up, we didn't have any support. We didn't have a bunch of other Indigenous kids or resources at the college and universities. And another thing that when my mother came up, she was able to reconnect with her roots and go back to school. And I am able to write a book today and talk about her journey, because she's very brilliant. And she's graduated from 3 universities now: McGill, Concordia, and the University of BC. Sorry, and Simon Fraser. So she's really got her stuff together. But again, I talk about my struggles. I had nothing, and I heard your struggles, and I think that what we need to talk about more is intergenerational survivors, especially the youth. This needs to be a really, really amazing voice in Canadian society. So one of the things that people have asked me when I speak is, how did you do it? And I kind of I don't know. I prayed a lot. I mean, I really, I didn't have the comfort of my community as I do now. So my question to you is, what are some of your resilience that you were able to do to empower you to continue, all of you? Your stories are just remarkable, and I teared up from every one of them, but I would like to hear a little bit more how you coped and how you succeeded. I think that would just benefit everybody to have a little bit more understanding of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Very good question. Who would like to go first? Joni.
Thank you. What helped me was the knowledge and wisdom from my grandparents and my parents. They helped me go through these tough times, and I often would talk to my mom about how I felt so much like a failure. Like this, I still get so emotional. That made me so emotional, what you just told me, because it still hits me today. It was just a few years ago, that's why. And yeah, my parents and my grandparents' wisdom and knowledge helped me through the hard time. Also prayers, and I know something that helped me as well is my namesake, Aupilakruk. He specifically wanted me to be named that name after him when he saw that my mom was pregnant. And it gets really powerful, and I feel the blessings from him, and that's one of the things that helped me to push through. Also, my close friends who I grew so close to over the years, they have helped me push through these challenges as well. I hope that answers your question.
If I could just build off of what Joni was saying as well. I felt for a long time when I was within the post-secondary world, even sometimes in high school, that I was almost with an imposter syndrome, that I knew I earned my place there. I knew I was given my space to be in these places, but something still didn't feel right. And I often questioned if my skill was good enough, if I was worthy enough, and all those sorts of things. And it wasn't until I started sitting down with some elders and I was speaking about this imposter syndrome that I felt. And they told me flat out, as many elders do, that I was insulting them by having those feelings, because I did earn my place there and I did earn my right to be there. And it was through conversations like that, and it was reflecting on the fact that I'm the eldest sibling in my family. I know my dad was not in the post-secondary world, so how could I set the example for my younger siblings coming behind me, that I hope for them that they would go into these institutions and become educated as well. So I really used my siblings as my fuel. I used my community's guidance to guide me in the right direction, down the right path of studies. But that imposter syndrome still comes up at times, and it's really just to manage those emotions and remind yourself and do the positive self-talk and positive self-love that we are worthy of these things. We are worthy of a higher education. We are worthy of being a participant in these institutions. And in doing that, that's what's really provided myself the strength and courage to continue on my journey through education and to be a guide for my siblings as well.
Yeah, thank you for that question, and I could relate in many different ways of that struggle, and I think I guess I'm still in that struggle. I'm a terrible student. I think I have a love-hate relationship with post-secondary education, but I think what has come out of that is my time in the lodge and spending time with our elders. And I feel like I've dedicated my life to uplifting their teachings and that wisdom and putting at a place of value. So my journey to education looks very different, and that's okay. And I love to challenge our ideas of what's valuable in education. And because I remember being at this language conference, and we're like, how come people don't want to learn? And we were told that it's because of that value. It wasn't valued anymore. So I really believe if we want to bring those things back, we have to wholeheartedly put ourselves in those positions to reclaim those things and to strengthen them. So my idea on education is a little bit different, but it's no less or more. And I think that's up to each and every one of us to have a different perspective and being open to respect and honor that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Microphone numéro 3, number 3, please. Yeah.
Cookstown. My name is Connie Jules. I'm from Kamloops, BC, and I work with students from kindergarten to grade 7, and I find it really, really super easy to work with the youngest ones, kindergartens to probably about grade 4, and I would like to know, this is just a first part of my question here, but how are some things that I could use to take home with me to reach into the hearts of the young teenagers coming up and everything? And also, I just want to say, I'm really proud of you. I know that our ancestors were there struggling for me, and I see them working through you, and I raise my hands up to you and say, Cookstown, thank you. And with that, Joni, I'm just really, really proud of you. Thank you for your words. They're just very touching. And to me, when you come from the heart like that, your sincerity in your emotions makes that bridge easy to cross back and forth. So we're building and bonding with others. And your story just really resonated with me about my childhood, and I'm from the generation of be seen and not heard, and it took me many, many years talking to some of the older elders, golden elders and everything, to find out that the generation before mine that I was looking for, they came from speak when spoken to. So what that did, it was separated the generations not to talk to each other. So once we crossed those barriers, our strength really grew, and I'm really happy to have had that, because we are losing our golden elders really fast. And I just want to say, continue that no matter what, and I'm really proud of you. And also, don't forget, I'm looking for how can I bridge from some of the young youth to teens, and I'm doing everything that I can, but I know that there's probably a lot of things that I can still learn, so that's what I'm asking you. How can I bridge that gap?
Thank you. Good question. Kira?
Thank you very much for the question. And I jumped ahead of the other panelists to respond to this one. I had worked prior to COVID-19 pandemic as a behavioral specialist at a inner city school in Winnipeg, where the demographic was 90% Indigenous youth, 5% newcomers to Canada, and 5% non-Indigenous students. And I worked predominantly with the grade 5, 6, and 7 classroom. And I got to know those kids on such a great deal and such a great level. And for many of those students, they carried more anger than I have seen any person ever carry. They carried the anger of their parents and their grandparents, and then they also carried the anger of just the system, the things that they were angry at overall. And for myself, when I worked in that role, one of the things that I tried to do every day was to just bring those emotional pieces down that are not allowing them to connect in a good way, because they have so much anger in their heart, or they have so much fear of what is unknown to them. Oftentimes they can't see the bigger picture, or they don't feel that there is a bigger picture. So what I did most of the time with my students is we tried to do a lot of reflecting time. So we would sit one with one another, oftentimes after we had smudged after lunch, and we would each have 2 or 3 minutes of personal reflection. And you would see their emotions start to spike in different ways, and you'd see them get all antsy and angsty and all these things. But it was bringing in the elements of having medicine within the classroom, having a safe space to speak to one another. We would have a sharing area. We would have all these things. So bringing in small cultural elements, but to me, the root of it was the emotions. And so it's recognizing and telling these young people, I see your anger. I see the emotions that you're feeling, though they're big and all these things. And recognizing them, because for a lot of the time these students just haven't had those emotions recognized yet, and they might not even recognize them within themselves. And that's what I found really built the bridge going forward for those barriers being broken down for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. No? Joni?
I agree with her because I have worked as a student support assistant as well at the school in my community for about a year. And I also worked as a sub-teacher. I fully agree with what she said, how they need to be seen. A lot of these young teenagers, these youth, they need to be seen and they need to be informed that they are seen, that they are cared for, that they are loved. I've also, as a mental health outreach worker, I promote mental health by delivering programs and events in my community. And one of the things were like having them play something that they like to play, like a sport. And then at the end of the night, reminding them that they're cared for, they're loved, and that they're seen, and that they're important. Like these little things like this, it helps youth like them. And yeah, making sure they are seen. I fully agree with what she said.
Well, thank you so very much, and I just want to say continue journeying well.
Yeah. Back to microphone number 1. Microphone numéro 1. Présentez-vous, s'il vous plaît.
Anine, my name is Kendra Smokaday. I work for the Office of the Treaty Commissioner in Saskatchewan. And I just want to acknowledge you both, all three of you, for your bravery for speaking and advocating for us. And my question is, if Indigenous youth want to get involved in these processes, what do you recommend?
Who would like to go first for our recommendation?
I don't know if anyone saw, but we were just having a lip fight on stage, pointing at each other who's going to answer first. So within my, speaking from the Métis perspective, Red River Métis, within our government, we have, at the Manitoba Métis Federation, we have regional youth advisory committees. Each of those regions are made up of 7 youth that represent their region. We have 7 regions within the province. And then we also have a provincial youth advisory committee. I always tell the youth in Manitoba that are Métis that are really looking to get involved to reach out to someone within your region at the grassroots level. We know our people better in our home communities. And then from there, like that's how I got involved. My grandfather had passed. I had an elder make one telephone call saying that young girl needs some people. And I have not walked away from my community, and I've been fully engulfed since. So if young people from Manitoba or who are Métis are looking to get involved, you can contact me. But there's the regional youth advisory committees and the provincial youth advisory committee, and there's all those different avenues. We just celebrated our 6th annual Métis Youth and Elder Conference in Selkirk, Manitoba, which had over 150 elders and 100 youth come together for 2 days full of teachings, gatherings, celebration, things of the sort. So that's one little way for Métis youth.
Rosalie?
Yeah, thank you. And I think to even speak to that too is like, as a young person, just looking at the advisory council that we have here and allowing that to be a model of what, you know, our organizations, our communities can bring back home. Because I think as young people, we've been so displaced sort of like these roles of leadership. And now what I see is like when these opportunities do come, young people don't know how to navigate it. So it's kind of like a lot of relearning So I think having the appropriate support from leadership and community, but also the financial resources. I truly believe in young people should be compensated, as experts of themselves. As young people, we know ourselves best, and to be able to speak to that is something that nobody else can. So I think being able to provide those resources in that way and those lines of mentorships, it goes a very long way. And I think that's my recommendation, probably more to leadership, those who, whether you're in the room or back home, if that's something to take away, I think that's what I could leave here with.
Thank you. Johnny, would you like to say something? No? Okay.
Miigwech.
Okay, so now let's move to microphone number 2. Microphone numéro 2, s'il vous plaît.
Yeah, bonjour, Tanse. My name is Louis Gardner. I'm from Isle Cross, Saskatchewan. I'm a survivor of the Isle Cross Residential School. To date, we're still not recognized, and we're fighting for recognition. And it was good to see the youth panel here along with the Governor General today, because I strongly believe that the Governor General is our champion. And as a young people, very important that you're here to hear from the survivors in terms of how we move this forward. I strongly believe the survivors gathering here that their message has always been that no survivors will be left behind. And that's why today we still stand as Isle Cross Residential School fighting for recognition. I'm a survivor of 9 years at the residential school. I went in there at 5 years old, very young, not knowing where I was going. So during my youth years, I was in the residential school. Some bad experience, but you know what? Now we have to fix, and how we move forward is very important. So with the young generation, that the language is a big component of our history, our culture, and we've seen that being lost. And our elders have always told us the language is a big part of your culture. If you lose it, and you're going to start losing your culture. So very important for the young generation that, we stand here. I listened this morning, very powerful messages that you sent. And one thing, my parents were survivors also, and they went to their grave, they never told us anything. They never told us what happened. So today we're just trying to figure out what, and they turned to alcohol. And sometimes they told us then a few times, but other than that. But as the young generation, and what we're struggling with is, in our community, is our young generation are asking, and we're also a very historic community. We're going to be celebrating 250 years in 3 years here. And our young generation is not learning and understanding our history enough, even about residential school. We're not teaching them enough as survivors. We need to find a way of how to teach the young generation about our histories. They're asking, my grandkids are asking me, what's this residential school stuff? What is that? You're a survivor, what does that mean? So we need to find a way in tools and of how we need to bring it into the communities and into the schools. We have to tell our young people and teach them about our history. That's why I hear that lots over the last little while. Our young people are lost. Intergenerational effects. I believe in that, because I see it myself as a survivor. So very important that we tell our leadership as survivors and the young people, we need to sit down more. Very important, that's got to happen, because we have to give the message now so you guys can carry the message going forward. So there's not really a question that I have, it's just I think more of a statement that I think I need to present to the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. It's a powerful statement, and I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for sharing. Microphone numéro 1, s'il vous plaît. Microphone number 1. Introduce yourself.
My name is Eli Worm. I'm from Cockatoos First Nation, and I'm representing the Office of the Treaty Commissioner. For our panelists, as more information starts to come forward about residential schools, how can we help Indigenous youth to break away from intergenerational trauma?
Oh, pretty straightforward question.
I think it's hard to give a direct answer because everybody has their own journey, right? I remember this quote, it's people can only see you as far as they have seen themselves. You know, so as much as we want to tell people, you know, this is how you got to do this or that, you know, sometimes they're just totally unaware. But I think in a way, a lot of our communities struggle from emotional immaturity and emotional intelligence. So I believe if we could provide some type of resources around that or raise that awareness of, you know, emotions, because I think that's something that was totally stripped away of our people and allowing ourselves to express that. And for myself, I had to do a lot of, you know, I go see a psychologist, I also go to our ceremonies, you know, but I needed to do that for myself so that I could be able to help other people. You know, but that's just my personal journey. But I think being able just to meet our young people where they're at and just provide them those opportunities, and it's up to them to make those decisions for themselves.
Thank you. And I also think to add into that is recognition. So it's something that I've even denied for myself for a long time, that I am affected by intergenerational trauma and that I am someone who does carry weight. And it's when I allowed myself that recognition that I started to work through the healing process. So I think if we continuously talk about intergenerational trauma and we continue these conversations, more people will have moments similar to myself when we've realized we are being impacted and affected by these things. But in order of ensuring that the cycle is not continued, I think that we also then, in part of that recognition, is it just needs to openly be talked about, the things that our families have gone through, the experiences that we have as young people, and just ensuring and really taking care of one another also in this journey, as it's not an independent and individual journey, but looking after one another through this work, I think is one of the important ways we can break these cycles. Thank you.
Thank you. Johnny, would you like to add something? Go. It's all yours.
So, providing support for them, that would help, and educating them as well. That's one of the most important things, because maybe some of them are not educated, and providing the support, resources, and also when you're working with people too, you need to understand that it's their choice and you can't force them, and that, like I tried to help people, but it didn't help them because they didn't choose to help themselves. Like, they have to make the decision themselves. Like, you can't force it upon them. Like, you could tell them how many times and the benefits and everything, but it really depends on the individual to decide to break that curse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before moving to the next speaker, I'd like to remind participants, if you need comfort or support, we have volunteers. They are all wearing a beautiful blue vest, so feel free and do not be shy, to ask for support or help. Les participants, si jamais vous aviez besoin d'aide ou de support, nous avons des volontaires, vous allez les reconnaître facilement avec leur veste bleue, qui me rendent jaloux, mais allez-y, ne vous gênez pas, ils sont ici pour vous aider. Donc, ça va être un peu comme le tango. It will be like the tango dance. I'll go to number 3, then number 1, and then number 2, and then you know the dance. Huh? So, s'il vous plaît, présentez-vous.
Awesome. Tu uklama wamish Histakshikla Tsuma Sishat, Hikamamukuluk, the Chief Counselor Sishat, presented yesterday. And first I want to say Shakshiklayats to the three of you. In our culture, when you hear somebody say Kleko, Kleko, that means thank you. But when you hear somebody say Shakshiklayats, it's a debt of gratitude from their spirit to you. And I just want to thank you all for your courage for getting up. I too, as a BC Assembly of First Nations on the National Youth Council rep when I was a youth way back then. I'm now 40, so that was a long time ago, so a big shout out to Rosalie and Taylor. I just want to thank you all for getting up and speaking and sharing. I've been chief of my community now for 3 years, and you saw in our presentation yesterday, we talked about youth engagement was actually one of the top priorities of our survivors. They said, let's inform youth about what's actually happening so that they never forget. But one of the challenges in our community is the topic of not just residential schools, but the things that we're doing in our communities and the work that we're doing. It's not, it has to be age specific. Like you can't talk to a 7-year-old the same way you can to somebody that's 20. Like this is such a heavy topic to talk about. So in our calls for truth and justice, one of the recommendations we had was like a Truth for Youth curriculum. In British Columbia, it's actually mandatory to talk about residential schools. There's actually curriculum in British Columbia. No matter where you go to school in the public school system, you have to learn about residential schools. And many of your other provinces, I think, do the same thing. But it is mandatory. But we don't talk about those that never made it home. And why? Because it has to be age specific. So I just wanted to share that that's one of our calls for truth and justice that our nation put forward. The second piece of that is actually, I'm glad everybody keeps talking about intergenerational trauma. We've asked for a fund to ensure that we support those children and grandchildren that have been impacted. So I'm not going to ask you about how to engage youth. That question's been asked several times. My question is actually, how do we engage and continue to garner the support of non-Indigenous youth? Because I've realized that if we're going to live in a better country, it's going to have children who grow up to be adults who get rid of racism or at least reduce it, because right now it's alive and well across this country. The denialism about what's happening in our communities is alive and well. But if we raise a generation of non-Indigenous youth to walk hand in hand with us, we'll live in a much better country. And so that's really my question to all of you is, how do we garner the support and continue to receive support from non-Indigenous youth, not just in residential schools, but all the work we're doing? So that's my question to you all. And once again, thank you for everything you do. The reason I didn't ask about how to engage our youth as well, because I feel like we're in good hands. I think everybody in this room should feel like we're in good hands with all of you.
Thank you. This was an excellent question because we speak about reconciliation, but we reconcile with whom? So also with our brothers and sisters, from Canada. So, Kira, please.
Thank you. Thank you for such a great question. I think we have seen during COVID that social media and the next generation is really tuned into the global world. I know when I was growing up, I paid attention to Manitoba because I knew Manitoba and that's what was around me was Manitoba. But my youngest sibling is 12 years younger than me and they live in a completely different world than I grew up in. And the things that they are exposed to and the things that they have access to because of social media, technology, and all those things, I think that we saw during COVID, a lot of young people, non-Indigenous, did step up after the 215 was announced. They were horrified. I also know for some of those young people, they have the mindset to do good in the world, and they have the mindset that their ancestors that came before them, they will recognize and own the things that they had done, but they also recognize that they're a new generation that has new hope and new visions for their future. In conversations with many young newcomers to Canada as well, they never knew of these stories when they chose Canada to be their home. That was a huge learning moment for many newcomer youth. So I think if we as Indigenous people can use platforms in a way that it's not just what our communities see. And if we can expand in having, I know that there's some amazing young people that are doing it. Kendra Jesse is one of them that comes to mind just right off the bat, but a young Indigenous person who's built a following that has now garnered, they've done campaigns with Lululemon and things like that. So we're now having a new way for young Indigenous people to look to their kind of role models, but it's also creating role models for non-Indigenous youth to look at these Indigenous youth as their role models. I always use Jordan Tutu as my example growing up because I also played hockey, but he was a role model that I had looked up to, and he broke into a space that was not very welcoming to him at the time. So we just need those champions to break through, and then we just need to keep supporting those champions and putting supports behind them to continue sharing the messaging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you were to ask the rebellious one of me, I would say the onus isn't on us to educate them. But, you know, as I continue to listen to my elders and those teachings, and I know if I want our non-Indigenous relatives to love the land as much as we do and love our culture and our people, you know, we have to show them. You know, I feel like that hurt part of me was very protective of our ceremonies and was like, this is our safe space and you can't come in this and take it away from us. You know, but I had to heal, you know, those parts of myself to have a different understanding, to be more welcoming, and know that they have an equal and even more responsibility, you know, to help us along in this journey and to educate themselves, but also, you know, we're there to, you know, help hold their hand. It's like you could take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know, so I always say that, and I was like, I'll take your hand, I'll walk you there, but you got to do the work, you know, for yourself too. So that'd be my recommendation.
Thank you. Johnny? No? Okay. Yeah, I promise to go back one day to microphone number one. Microphone numéro 1, s'il vous plaît. Présentez-vous.
Oui. Bonjour. Mon nom c'est Fernand Nicoué. Mon nom spirituel c'est Scomigis.
Monsieur Nico, est-ce que je peux vous interrompre juste une seconde? Je vais demander aux jeunes de mettre leurs écouteurs, d'accord? On est en train de tester la technologie, Monsieur Nicoué. Est-ce que ça fonctionne? Pouvez-vous parler juste pour voir si ça fonctionne?
Oui, je peux parler.
Bon, est-ce que vous l'entendez?
Chanter.
Bon, bien, Monsieur Nicoué, on vous écoute attentivement.
OK, je vais recommencer. Mon nom c'est Fernand Nicoué, et mon nom spirituel c'est Mascomigis, qui veut dire petite glace. Je suis vraiment... J'ai été vraiment content d'entendre ces jeunes femmes-là. Ça a été ici dans mon cœur. C'est pas vraiment monté dans mon mental. Puis je les vois, là, puis je suis content de les voir. Ils sont 3. Puis quand je regarde le point d'odeur, c'est tressé à 3. Je peux dire que moi, je suis né dans la vieille énergie. Puis là, aujourd'hui, je vois la nouvelle énergie. Il y a un jour qui se lève, il y a un monde qui se met en place. Puis quand je dis ils sont 3, on voit juste les 3, mais il y a combien d'esprits derrière les autres? Il y en a beaucoup. Comme j'ai vu une médecine qui avait 261 grands-pères. En ce temps-là, je le disais, grand-père. Mais aujourd'hui, je sais qu'il faut que je dise 261 grands-mères. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, là, c'est l'énergie d'amour maternel qui s'exprime, qui est priorisée. Et dans mon cœur, je sais, on va y aller avec les jeunes parce que les autres, ils vont savoir où aller, quoi faire. C'est ceux qui vont nous écouter, mais ils ont déjà leur solution. Puis, je ne parlerai pas trop parce que je sais que quand le Créateur il visitait une personne, là, il disait seulement nos cimes. Puis, tout le monde comprenait c'était quoi. Il n'y avait pas besoin de parler. Mais c'est la même chose pour moi. Mais les gens, ils ont rajouté des mots, puis aujourd'hui, ça parle beaucoup. Puis quand on parle beaucoup, ben, on s'écarte parce que le mental est rentre. Puis, je vous remercie. Je suis grand-père, j'ai été père, grand-père, puis arrière-grand-père aujourd'hui. Puis je vous aime beaucoup, là. Puis je vais partir avec ça, puis je vais l'utiliser dans mon cheminement parce que j'ai pas fini. J'aurais beaucoup de choses à partager, mais c'est juste que je vous remercie chacun de vous, puis je vous aime beaucoup.
Wow. Monsieur Fernand, merci beaucoup du fond du cœur pour votre excellent témoignage. Merci beaucoup, c'est très apprécié. Je vais prendre 2 autres questions. J'avais envie d'aller au microphone numéro 2. I wanted to go to microphone number 2. Puis on va terminer avec le microphone numéro 3. So I move to microphone number 2 and we will end with microphone number 3. À vous la parole. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon, morning.
Morning.
Tanse, Jordan Burnoff, Nisihkasun, Sagatawakote. I come from the Métis community of Isla Cross, and I'm also from Black Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. I just want to thank you, Kananaskum Tin, and Kasagi Tin, to the mushum there that just spoke. I got the translation of small ice, but I can't remember your name and your language, but thank you. I heard you speak yesterday and you shared the message of love. Anyway, my question to you, and I guess maybe to the audience as well, my grandfather, my mushum, he never shared, both of my grandparents on both sides never shared whatever happened to them in school. And it wasn't until about a month before my grandfather passed, and he lived to be 90, which is funny. He said, I'm only living till I'm 90, and he lived to be 90 in one day. He was funny like that. And anyway, he only told us about a month before he passed, and it was only because he wanted to apply for funding to get the payment, sorry, I'm losing my words here, but to support his family, because he died not really having anything to leave behind for his children. And he thought, maybe if I tell my story, this thing that I've been hiding, this ugly, awful thing I've been hiding my entire life, that maybe I can help even when I'm gone. Anyway, my question to you, the youth, is, for me to hear that, I was not prepared. I'm still not prepared when I relive the story. So just how do we ensure that, all of you, all of the survivors feel safe and okay to share with us? I'm standing here in tears and feeling pretty heavy, but I wanted to take that on. I wanted to hear so I can give him some healing and some peace and just, and sometimes when we hold on to that, it can get so heavy for ourselves. And so to carry some of that weight is what I'm hoping that, the younger generation can do. But I guess it's advice from both sides, from the survivor side and from the youth. And how do we prepare for that? Because my mushum, for example, I know he held in a lot of that, all of it, just because he wanted to protect the people around him. You know, and you heard Louis from my community talk about, we need to share this stuff because people need to know. And I think he shared a little bit about Isla Crosse, and Isla Crosse is not recognized because we're a municipality. The school is 158 years old. You know, the history is there, the stories are there, but quite often they just live in the land because they were never shared and people don't know. So I mean, for us to find justice is one thing, but also for people to find peace and, you know, to let go of some of that stuff. Anyway, I know it's a really heavy question, and maybe it's more just for people to think about that, you know, we're ready, but how do we welcome that, and how do we like make it okay for people to share, and how do we save space within ourselves to take some of that on? Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, Jordan, for that question, which is, you know, very thought-provoking, right? I think for myself, like individually, you know, I never had that experience with my grandfather as he had passed before. But I often think about, you know, how we best can prepare ourselves for those stories, right? And I don't think there's any set in stone way, but I think it's just being compassionate people and holding space. You know, there's no way that we could fix anybody's feelings or tell them, you know, how to feel or how to react, but it's just making sure that we're equipping ourselves, you know, with the appropriate mental health resources. You know, I had taken the mental health first aid for First Nations, and that was just so eye-opening. And I really do believe if all of our community members could have, you know, that type of training, the way we treat each other would be very differently. So I'm really big on mental health, and obviously, like, as you know, in ceremonies and just being able to start us off in a good way and just having, you know, that strength through our belief system. I may not have a direct answer, but I think that's just how I would probably look at approaching it. It's just kind of, you know, building up our toolkit or putting our baskets, right? Being able to fill that with things that could help us process these things and just, you know, just naming it, and it's like, this is safe, you know, it's okay. And I think being able to hold that integrity is something that will probably bring us together. You know, being able to be vulnerable, there's strength in that, and it's no longer deemed as a weakness. So I think that's my little addition to that.
Kira?
Thank you again. And yeah, it is just, it's a thought-provoking one, and I wish I had a straight answer, but it is really heavy work. I think we don't even realize at times that we're showing our communities that we're ready for this. I can see you have a good heart, so I can see that others would see you have a good heart. And that's sometimes how it starts, is we don't even recognize that we're ready to take on this work, and it starts happening, and then we hit the ground running and we run with it as far as we can to take care of our people. I know for myself, there's been times where I've needed a period of disconnect. I've needed a moment to have my own reflection and to sit with my heavy feelings, because I know that if I keep carrying them, I won't be able to do any of the good work I intend on doing because I'll be too heavy down. So taking those moments, they feel selfish, but just know they aren't. You can't do the good work you intend to do if your heart and your head are not in the right spaces. So taking care of yourself and ensuring that the people around you know your story as well. I have many non-Indigenous friends, Indigenous friends of the sorts that, like, people know that I'm out here this weekend doing this, and I've had people do the check-ins. It's heavy. It's heavy. So you need your support circle, but then you also just need to ensure that you're doing reflection within yourself. Thank you again for that thought-provoking question.
Johnny? Okay. So, notre dernière intervenante, the last but not the least, microphone number 3.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Angie Creer, and I'm 87 years old, a survivor of 10 years, an elder, and children. Listening to you young girls, it brought memories. Memories I never had a chance of. I was born in the 30s. in 1936. And when I was 8 years old, we were taken to residential school with my two younger sisters. Never had a chance. As a young people, we were taught with love, respect, and kindness by our parents, like many of you have learned. When we went over there, it was a different world, cruel. We were lost. And we were lost for 10 years till I got out. Never one kind word. We went to school for 3 hours a week. And you could only go to grade 9. We had to go to Fort Smith to go to grade 12. But we never learned anything. There was nothing. They treated us so cruelly, called us names. I'll never forget, as long as I live, and many others, that used to say just about once a week, for the love of God, I come here to leave my country, to leave my home, to leave my family and my community, just to introduce you, you savages. You will never amount to anything. And one of the young girls said, I'm a half-breed. Wow. There's no such thing. You will never be anything. The native don't want you, and the white people don't want you. Nobody wants you, you'll never amount to anything. And we heard that year and year. We started to lose our faith, our love, and respect from our home, our relatives, our own home. And because nobody cared. Nobody come to see us, nobody. The government made such big ideas for us, and they never wants to see us. We were totally ignored. Everybody forgot that we were children. It was cruel. But we're still here. We're so important for me. That so means so much. We learned, and we worked together. All of a sudden we got a brain. Why? Don't we have a voice? Didn't our parents teach us? Did we forget everything? And slowly, our world changes. We're helping each other. And we're looking after each other, especially the babies. And we could not protect the 3, 5, 6, 7 young girls by being abused, physically abused. And we didn't know about it. We didn't know what was happening right in front of our own eyes. We didn't see or hear why these little children were sobbing at night. We go and hold them and hug them, but they never said anything. They were so scared. Later, many years later, when we got together, they tell us, I was abused when I was 5 years old. And why didn't you tell us? Because they do the same thing to you and they put your mother or parents in jail. So, what kind of life? Who has these same people that look us down, call us savages and everything, and abuse our own children? This will never be forgotten. Don't ever forget it. Protect your children. Our light, those days, was the Catholic Church, they were the superior. Even our RCMP were afraid of them. And I was. When they pulled me right out of my school and took me, the RCMP did, took my children and took us to the airport and took us to the convent. They had no right to do that. And it took me many, many, many years to forgive them. Many years. And I started working with them. And now they're one of the best people I know. And I protect them too, and I support them. Because, you can't live like that. Live in anger. Live in revenge. Because you ruin yourself. Your whole body, your body is resisting your own safety. But I learned over the years to forgive everything that happened, but it's hard. And I see so many people, so many elders I love elders, they help me. They help me change my life. And the survivors, I highly respect those survivors. Yeah. We're here alive because of them.
Yeah, and I would like to say, I'm sorry to.
The pride that
I just want to say that we really honor, all the words you have said. Your powerful and strong words, and I think you deserve a big round of applause. And also, I would like to invite you.
So proud looking at you. And of course, my little meaty young one there. We never had a chance, but here, you have the opportunity now that we never had. And look at you. And your life, you know what? I look at you as a real model.
Cool. And
a leader of the future. And all of you.
And you're
proud. You're standing. And be proud of who your nationality is. And
cool.
Always.
And I would like to also say I couldn't agree with you more, So thank you for your very strong words. And a big round of applause for our youth.